Hey everybody, JJ here. Hey Zach, why don't you go ahead and let me know if everything is actually sounding okay on your guys' end. We had to go through a little bit of a reboot. There was actually a little bit of a back-end update that was silently present that actually changed over some of our audio settings. So hopefully everything's gone ahead and been reset and we are okay. So if you guys can let me know. Hey Mike, welcome to the stream. I'll wait for you guys to go ahead and just confirm. Let me know that audio is coming through okay, and that would be great. Okay, fantastic, Zach. Thank you guys so much for confirming for me that audio is coming through okay. So as a quick recap, guys, this is the ASUS PCDIY live stream. We generally have this every Friday. We haven't had it for the last few weeks. There's just been a little bit of kind of some other items going on. Personally had a couple of items come up. One of my dogs sadly actually went through a bout of cancer, had to go through a treatment routine with them. And we also had quite a bit of a number of internal kind of items going on with ASUS. A lot of busy things in terms of kind of rollouts and launches and, really diving into the weeds and kind of really trying to get everything set up for a lot of exciting launches that we've got coming up. And definitely right now, relaunching here the PCDIY live stream, we've got a lot of information to go in through. This time around, as always, we're going to be covering a little bit in terms of UEFI updates. So for those of you that are, of course, interested in our UEFI BIOS releases, we'll be jumping into that. We've got some really exciting brand new product announcements, including the brand new CROSSHAIR VIII Extreme, which is a board that I previously teased a little while ago. It's part of our 4 motherboards that are going to feature a passive chipset design similar to our CROSSHAIR VIII Dark Hero based motherboard. And we've got some new motherboards, monitors, keyboards, mice, as well as some general product availability updates, including the PG279QM, which I know a number of you have really been waiting on in terms of when this monitor will be available. For those of you that are checking out this stream on Facebook and YouTube, or wherever you might be checking it out, but you're not part of our ASUS PCDIY Facebook group, keep in mind that you might want to consider joining that group. I consistently post there pretty much on a daily basis. The group has access to pretty much most up-to-date information, not only on teasers, launches, insights, guides, and a whole lot more, but also our PCDIY product release calendar, which I update generally on a weekly basis, which includes new teased products as well as availability updates as we get them. So it gives you kind of the most information as possible when it comes to finding out when a product might be available. Keep in mind that for those of you that are outside of North America, that the information that we are disclosing is for our North American-based customers. So that would be if you're, of course, in the US or if you're in Canada. All right, guys. So let me go ahead and get ready to jump in on this, and we'll kind of go about that. Thank you, Mike. He's actually, doing good, all things considered. He was able to actually go through some advanced SRT-based radiography, so essentially a specialized form of radiation targeted treatment to essentially kind of remove it, but it is still a massive kind of glioma, so it's still present, so ultimately it's still terminal, but he's doing well, he's enjoying himself, and hopefully we'll have him for a little bit more time and ultimately just be able to provide him a comfortable and enjoyable experience. So thank you so much, I really appreciate that. So let's go ahead and let me quickly just jump into a couple of questions if there's something that's come up before we get into the UEFI releases that have come out this week. So, hey Kevin, glad to have you here on the stream as well. So thank you for joining us. So let me go ahead and see what we have right here. Okay, doesn't see anything immediate. Oh, Zach, that's actually a good question. I'll touch on that quickly in terms of the Gundam Edition series products before I get into our UEFI updates. So for those of you, some of you might be aware that we essentially launched a really big collaborative kind of product release with Sunrise. And that actually allowed us to essentially release a huge number of products under kind of the Gundam IP, which included Gundam RX-based series products and then Gundam Zaku-based series products. That was at the end of June, and it kind of has rolled out since then, though the vast majority of inventory at this stage has already been sold out. Now, this was a limited production run, so pretty much there's no longer, I believe, availability for just about the majority of the components. There are a couple of items that will be refreshed in the peripheral lineup, I believe, namely the mouse and the mouse pad a little bit later in Q4, and there may be some slight potential refreshes that might still be going up from some channel partners like Newegg. You can definitely inquire with them if they still have any pending inventory for items that still need to be refreshed and listed. I think there still might be a couple of the routers that might be available that are from that branded IP franchise, but otherwise, for pretty much all intents and purposes, I believe that the vast majority of the stock is pretty much sold out at this time. So If you were kind of looking forward to that, definitely we'd love to hear your feedback so that as we kind of move forward in the future, if you definitely want to continue to see these kind of really cool collaborations, definitely let us know. And I can already give you a little bit of a teaser that some of you might have seen some kind of maybe pictures or images or information out there regarding Demon Slayer and ASUS IP collab. And I'm really excited to tell you that we will actually bringing the Demon Slayer ASUS series branded products to the North American market. So there's still quite a little bit of time before we get there, and we'll definitely, as we get closer to that formal launch, we'll detail out the actual formal launch date, the products that will be part of that launch. If you're going to be interested in the Demon Slayer ASUS product lineup, then make sure to go ahead and keep it tuned to our social media channels, and make sure to go ahead and keep it tuned to the ASUS PCDIY Facebook group, because we'll definitely make sure to give you guys that information first. Or if you're joining us on the PCDIY weekly live stream, then of course I will recap it there. Pretty much, like I said, going forward every Friday. This is definitely going to be an important type of launch, so it would be covered here on the stream. All right. Yeah, so Mike, for some of the 380 series graphics cards, it depends on kind of like the configuration that was worked out with channel partners. There was an allocation that was also provided to system integrators. So I think that actually the only remaining inventory is actually coordinated through our system integrated partners. So they actually have cards, and those are essentially pre-configured into a system configuration. So beyond that, I don't believe that there's actually any other GPU availability if you're talking about kind of standard GPU from being able to purchase from e-tail or retailer partners. Okay. All right. So yeah, well, we're going to be talking about the Extreme in a little bit, so we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's go ahead and just dive into our first item, which is going to be our UEFI updates. So for those of you that are aware, UEFI updates, they're the firmware for your motherboard. They really define the overall kind of experience in terms of interoperability, compatibility, performance. They can improve stability. They can enhance features and functionality. They're really kind of paramount to the overall experience of a system. And of course, over time, we do release new UEFI updates, which can introduce quite a number of items. For the vast majority of motherboards that are pretty much out right now, I would say that they're all what we would consider a mature state, which means that you don't generally have to update the UEFI. If you've been running a UEFI on your system without any issues and everything's running well, no need to upgrade. You can actually find quite a bit more lengthy post that we have in the PCDIY Facebook group that gives you full guidance on what I would recommend in terms of scenarios and conditions where you may want to upgrade the UEFI. Or of course, if you're an enthusiast and you want to just try something new, then you should be mindful of different things like that. It can affect interoperability and compatibility with previous overclocking settings. It could break RAID configurations. Beta UEFIs are not formally supported, and there's many kind of other aspects to kind of keep in mind. That being noted, as we announced quite a bit back, we have been pretty much rolling out the latest AMD AGESA updates for 400 and 500 series motherboards. This AGESA update was kind of a transition from a prior build that was originally issued from AMD to be able to enhance and improve USB interoperability and compatibility and overall stability. And that has been pretty much the current AMD AGESA 1.2.0.3, Patch B, and now Patch C builds. So you will see kind of a mix of different boards that have Patch A, Patch B, Patch C. Pretty much long-term, though, pretty much everything will be transitioned to essentially Patch B, Patch C based builds. And I believe there's 11 boards that were updated today. And of course, there was a number of different boards that were upgraded last week. And there's some other boards that have been pretty much upgraded, pretty much every week before that. If you want to check on your board, go to support.asus.com, look up your model and see if it's been recently updated. Again, a key benefit of being part of the PCDIY Facebook group is that I post UEFI updates every Friday, a complete list for our Intel and AMD based motherboards. So you have a full rundown essentially of those important UEFI releases as they become available, along with any kind of specific notes if there's something that's relevant that you want to keep in mind. So overall, that gives you guys a quick recap in regards to those new UEFI updates. Again, it's not a critical release. If you're running a system right now without any problems, don't worry about updating it. But for those of you that may potentially still be experiencing, I would say, some USB interoperability based issues, then it might be a UEFI update that you may want to apply to your system. Okay, so let me just go ahead and take a look, see if there's anything there beyond that. Okay, looks good. Hey, John, happy to have you here on the stream. And Grande, I think it's Grande. Yeah, happy to have you here on the stream as well. So thanks for joining us. All right, and Dave, thanks for confirming that everything is good so far in terms of the stream. So guys, that gives us a quick recap of our latest UEFI releases that we have. So next up, let's go ahead and talk about some brand new products. And so I'm pretty excited about this. Hey, Mike, happy to have you here on the stream, man. Always great to be able to have you here. Hey, Ellen. Great to have you here as well. So we've actually got quite a number of different products to talk about, but I think the one that was probably of most interest to many of you, although I know the PG279QM is going to be really, really exciting for many of you, is going to be the brand new Crosshair. So let me actually go ahead and bring up some of these images. I think probably some of you have already seen some of these images. Of course, if you're part of our PCDIY Facebook group, I posted there first. But let's go ahead and take a look at this beautiful board. So for many of you are aware, of course, X570 is the higher end chipset in terms of the kind of non-HEDT based platform for AMD. So you have the B550, you have X570, you also have A520, but not as many enthusiasts, of course, are running A520, which is a little bit designed for more kind of general basic users. And generally also is favored more in kind of the small form factor based configurations. So here we can take a look at this beautiful board. This is right here, the brand new Crosshair 8 Extreme. And this has part of the essentially 4 motherboards that we're launching for the passive refresh, or essentially update. These aren't necessarily refreshes, because in certain scenarios when you talk about a refresh, you're going to be replacing a model. For some of you, you're probably aware that, of course, we have other Crosshair series motherboards like the Crosshair 8 Hero. We also have the Crosshair 8 Dark Hero. We no longer are offering the Crosshair 8 formula, so that board has actually now been discontinued. And so kind of there's a little bit of transition in that regard, that the Crosshair 8 Extreme will kind of be replacing the formula, but also will be positioned above it because it offers a significantly more advanced feature set. And really kind of the goal here with the Crosshair 8 Extreme was to reintroduce an Extreme offering and really have it be the benchmark, the absolute kind of best board possible that we could design for the AIM-based platform. So we kind of pulled out all the stops and really took it to the maximum level in terms of, you know, from the power delivery design to the PCB to the features and specifications. I mean, this board is really packed with about just every key specification you could ask for. You've got Thunderbolt 4 on board, which is an extreme rarity to have Thunderbolt at all built onto an AMD-based motherboard. And the fact to now have the latest generation of Thunderbolt 4, you have 10 gigabit LAN that's also on the board. You have Wi-Fi 6E that's built onto the board, latest generation of Bluetooth standard. It can support up to 5 M.2 based SSDs, has our OptiMem memory technology for outstanding DRAM frequency, performance, and of course tweaking and tuning. It has the dynamic OC switcher technology, which so many users, you know, when we first introduced that to of course, the X570 lineup with the Crosshair 8 Dark Hero, we're really super impressed by, and you know, definitely more of an enthusiast kind of tweaking and tuning feature, but there's a huge amount there. It's really an amazing board. I'm not going to go ahead and show you just a couple of other shots here, just so you can kind of get a sense of the board's kind of design, layout, and kind of look and feel. So first up, I think let's go ahead and take a look at it in, I think, the non-RGB vibe. So let me go ahead and load it up here in the non-RGB. Because personally, I think it looks really, really great in terms of this kind of design aesthetic when you talk about it from a non-RGB kind of design. And really kind of all our current generation of motherboards, we approach kind of the design with what we call a monochrome design aesthetic. And so that means that we really kind of want it to be color neutral, so that if you want to build, let's say, a system with no RGB lighting, then you could definitely go that route. Or if you essentially want flexibility to ensure that the board isn't contending or competing with colors, then it makes sense, right? So here you can see board looks fantastic. In kind of that full monochrome aesthetic. It does feature 3 zones of lighting. So there's going to be, of course, a zone of lighting there that's on the IO shroud and the ROG, then the ROG-I, and then it has the full perimeter side lighting on the side of the motherboard. In addition to that, it does have 3 ARGB headers that are built onto the motherboard, and then it will also come included with the new ARGB and fan hub, which we introduced with the Maximus 13 Extreme. So that will even allow you to attach more fans and more ARGB-based devices. So if you want to be able to have a really, really diverse and kind of complex system with lots of fans to supplement your cooling configuration, especially if you're maybe going into water cooling, liquid cooling, then that's a great option for you. And of course, if you just want to be able to have a high number of ARGB based devices, you don't necessarily have to spend as much money on maybe specialized splitters or things along those lines. As always though, RGB is very dependent on the ecosystem of the kind of the vendor and the devices that you're going with. But of course, we utilize ASUS or Sync. So kind of our ecosystem is based on all the partners that work with us to allow their product to be directly plugged into those headers on the motherboard. So that includes everything from fans to coolers to LED strips to chassis to, of course, water cooling. You can pretty much get any device that can plug in directly into the board and then allowed it to be, of course, synced. So let me just take a look right here and just see if there's anything right there. Yeah, so actually that's a great question. Before I bring up the second picture here, let me see right here. So Hanze, I believe, is asking, what are the two essentially display ports that are on there? Well, because this motherboard essentially has Thunderbolt 4, you may essentially have to have some type of loopback functionality for display outputs tie-in. So that's essentially what you have built onto that board for essentially the display out configuration. It's not a requirement. It really just comes down to what type of functionality you're looking for display port, for display output within Thunderbolt 4. Thunderbolt 4, you know, for probably most enthusiasts, is going to be used first and foremost for just the ultra high speed throughput that it offers for, let's say, like external storage devices. And it's less common that it's utilized in the desktop based configurations for something like display output support, because most users will run their display out from their graphics card, not usually out from the Thunderbolt interface. But that being noted, it is a specification supported. Another really cool spec here in terms of the connectivity here is that this board features USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2, which is ultra high speed, but it also is the first board that we're offering kind of in a standardized configuration, as we have had some other boards with high, let's say, power output capabilities for USB that supports actually the USB PD specifications up to 60 watts. So that's pretty cool in terms of just being able to give you high speed charging support. So if you've got like a cool setup configuration with the system and you want to be able to actually have high speed charging out to another device, you could actually have that be done by the motherboard, because it can actually support up to 60 watts in that regard. Yeah, somebody's asking, does it have, of course, DIMM.2? Yes, all pretty much kind of the extreme boards. It is a hallmark of the extreme boards for them to come with the DIMM.2 based interface. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring up here the image of that, and we'll kind of show that off. But give me 1 second. I might need to resize that image. And then I'm also going to bring up here the, bring up the RGB based image there. So I will do that in 1 second here. Let me go ahead and just add that. There we go. Okay, great. I'm just resizing some of these guys, so it's a little bit easier to share, not as bandwidth heavy there. Just a little bit easier to kind of scroll through in terms of some of these images. Okay, very cool here. Okay, so let's go ahead and show some of these guys off. So we're going to go ahead and remove this image and load this guy up for you guys. Here we go. Yep, RGB, and then we'll show you also the rear I/O configuration, which I think works well. So here's the RGB, and here's the non-RGB. So can we do that? Yeah, I think that actually works pretty well, right? I think you guys can see it kind of pretty clearly right there. So you can actually see, as I was noting, the 3 different illuminated zones there on the ROG logo, the I/O shroud, and then the side perimeter lighting. And then you'll also see in the center for the board the actual 2-inch OLED live dash display. So this is actually a larger base display than we had, let's say, like on the Formula, which was a 1.3-inch base display. It's essentially the same one that we offer in the Extreme, which has also been updated to even have more monitoring options built into it, more customization elements. So that's another level that you have flexibility to kind of tweak and tune and tailor and kind of configure things and be able to set things up really well. Hey, John, so you're one thing I will note here, always on the PCDIY stream, is we're always excited about trying to answer as many questions as we can resident to any products that we have announced or teased or essentially part of our current product portfolio. If essentially something is a rumor or it hasn't been formally confirmed, or you might perceive that it might be maybe under NDA or maybe a future-based product, we can't comment on that type of product, neither confirm or deny it. So essentially, the easiest way to kind of be aware of whether we can talk about anything is going to be whether that product has at least been teased or announced and has had some type of formalized information. Generally, a good kind of correlating item to that is that if it's been announced within the PCDIY Facebook group, or it has an ASUS product page, we can definitely provide more information. Okay. So actually, so you might be actually confused in terms of the actual configuration here. So this is a good question. So somebody's saying is that it doesn't necessarily seem that extreme with only 2 of those primary slots. And I think part of that configuration that you would want to keep in mind, right, is that the reality that for the kind of current, I'd say, you know, standard chipsets that are, again, non-HEDT, you actually see that over 90%, and that's actually, I believe, maybe statistically, it might even be over 95%, utilize one single graphics card. So that would be something all the way up into the class of course, you know, 6800, 6900 series card from AMD, or of course, a 3080, 3090 class graphics card from NVIDIA. Because of course, also the reduction of kind of, I'd say, broader sales support for multi-GPU configurations from both AMD and NVIDIA, you see that less commonly now kind of as a focus amongst the enthusiast community. That can still be a possible configuration, of course, with a card like, let's say, like the 3090, and we have configured the board to be able to support that configuration. Beyond that, because this is still first and foremost a gaming-centric board, while it still might be tailored to enthusiasts who want to overclock and liquid cool, that is still going to be the most common configuration. Even if you went into a very high-end base build, it would only be with a 2 GPU base configuration. If you have kind of a really want or need to really go to more physical by 16 slots, which also electrically would provide high PCI bandwidth, then you would actually want to move away from X570 because you do have chipset and PCIe lane limitations from the CPU, and you would want to move into an HD platform. So that would be platforms like TRX 40, so Threadripper, or even Threadripper Pro with boards that we offer. So like the Zenith Extreme Alpha, or also the WRX 80, yeah, the WRX 40 board that we have, let's say, that's more focused, let's say, on the workstation and kind of professional content creation side of the fence. On those boards, you will actually have many more PCIe slots that are available to you depending on whatever you're looking for, whether that's going to be compute-based cards, RAID configurations, specialized add-in cards, whatever it might be, because that platform also affords you a lot more PCI Express lanes. Okay? All right. So let me go ahead and just see if there's anything. Oh, very cool, man. Awesome. B450-F is a great board. We, of course, have updated that with the B450-F2 gaming version, but that is definitely a great board. Happy to know that you're rocking that, man. Thanks for being part of Team ROG, Team Strix. Let me go ahead and just show you guys here. Some people, I'm sure, probably have an interest in terms of the I/O, and then we'll also go ahead and show off here a little bit in terms of that DIMM.2 based configuration, which I think some people have some interest in. So let me go ahead and bring up the I/O here, and DIMM.2 card, yes. So where's a good angled shot, I think, of that? Yeah, here we go. Okay. So here you guys can see that is going to be the I/O for the board. You can see that you've got 10 USB ports. That's in addition to that this board also has 4. It has 4 internal USB high-speed ports. So there's 2 USB-C ports, and there's 2 USB 3 standard ports. So that's a 4 sets of internal USB high-speed headers along with this. So that would bring you collectively 18 ports. So that's a lot of USB connectivity. And of course, here on the back, you can see that you've got the Thunderbolt connectivity, and of course, you have the Wi-Fi 6E, and you have the dual LAN configuration that's on this board with 10 gigabit as well as 2.5 gigabit base connectivity. So a lot of I/O there for you, pretty much to cover kind of everything you're looking for. And here, if we take a little bit of a closer look, you'll actually see that there's that DIMM.2 add-in card. And that's essentially the optional card that mounts onto the motherboard next to the DIMM slot. So next to the 4 DIMM slots that will allow you to go ahead and install 2 additional M.2 based SSDs. So the motherboard itself has 3 M.2 slots that are underneath that ultra large metal essentially heatsink shroud that's part of the lower portion of the board. And the low OLED screen that you see, that's actually on top of a large, thick heatsink assembly. And when you remove that actual heatsink assembly, that's also where another one of the M.2 drives will mount. And if you also take a look there at the angled, this is a super beefy power delivery design, 18 power stages, 90 amps, massive, really, really large, thick, two-stage VRM heatsink. So what I mean by two-stage VRM heatsink is that there's one block connected by heat pipe, then there's another block that makes full contact, of course, with your power stages, and also some partial contact there with the actual chokes, the inductors, and then you have a large, essentially extended heatsink, which is part of also the I/O shroud itself. Super beefy, really weighty board. It's just a super high-end board, and again, really kind of targeted for, I think, the enthusiasts out there that will really kind of jump into water cooling configurations, will really overclock their systems, because this board also does come included with our water cooling zone headers. Some people still aren't aware that that's kind of a key difference between ROG Strix board and ROG Crosshair boards. So you have temperature inlet monitoring, temperature outlet monitoring, water flow monitoring, a water pump header. That's all built onto the motherboard, and you just have to make sure that you're connecting to those respective headers, and then you can have access to those items within the UEFI environment within the firmware, or if you were to, of course, use AI Suite. All right, guys. Yes, definitely, I would agree. Super epic, and Snef, man, you know, you're a masterclass builder. You always do an amazing job with, I think, the stream boards. If you guys definitely want to see some awesome stuff, then make sure to go ahead and check out his builds. He's got some amazing stuff that we've shown off that he's done recently with some of our Extreme Series boards. So that, guys, is a little bit of an update there for the Crosshair 8 Extreme. I think a lot of people are really excited about this board. We'll have a little bit more information coming later on in terms of a full live stream that will dive into this board, along with the other board that we'll kind of be launching at the same side, alongside that, which will be the ProArt X570 Creator board. Keep in mind that we're going to have a total of 4 boards that will all be part of this kind of passive chipset launch for X570. So there will be an ROG Crosshair board, which is here with the Extreme. Then we will have a ProArt board with the X570 Creator. Then we will have an X570 essentially -E board, which will be part of the ROG Strix lineup. That's going to be a great option for some of you that may not necessarily want to jump all the way up to a Crosshair series motherboard, but still get really some amazing functions, features, and specifications, including dynamic OC switcher, which will be introduced on that board. And we will have an update as well for the ever popular TUF Gaming X570 series. So 4 boards in total, but the first 2 coming out will be these 2, and we should have some more information shortly this month, coming into August, regarding these motherboards, including MSRP and availability information. So not too much longer for those of you that are interested in either one of these boards. All right, guys. Okay. So, hey, Brandon, you make an interesting question there as far as like whether or not we will essentially see quote unquote white PCB components. We have a wide range of white themed products. I would confidently say you can look at, you know, builders like actually Snef, who just made a comment here, who's done amazing white themed builds, along with many of our community members that are using our Prime series, our ROG Strix, Dash A series models, both on Intel and AMD. We have white series based graphics cards. You don't need to have quote unquote white PCB, because especially when the board is actually covered with certain items, you may not see elements of that. You can have a very clean quote unquote white series motherboard. Specifically, white PCB is problematic and challenging because it can affect signal interoperability and performance. It has generally more challenges in terms of production yield as well. Color uniformity consistency is also more of a challenge because of the way that the actual PCB has to be treated. This is the reason why, like, if you take a look at our ROG Strix 30 series cards that feature white, the PCB isn't white. The entirety of everything else that you see is white, because there's no point in making the PCB there white. And similarly, we try to add additional kind of white accents on the board to be able to do that. I would say never say never. There could be a possibility that you could see definitely, especially within the premium segment, like our ROG high-end series, like Crosshair, Maximus kind of class boards, that there could be essentially that pursuit to be able to offer something like that. But right now at this stage, if you want white, we definitely have a wide range of product offerings. Like I said, from the Prime series lineup, as well as from the ROG Strix lineup that I think have you covered there. And I think we've also shown we have an extensive range of white series components, from, you know, headsets, the graphics cards, the power supplies, the chassis, to coolers. and even some more things that are going to be coming up in the not too distant future. I can't tell you about them, but make sure to keep it tuned here to the stream because I've got some more announcements. So if you're interested in things that are white and comes to PC DIY components, then there'll be some cool stuff that'll be coming up. All right, guys. Okay, guys. So hopefully that handles your, answers your question there, Brendan. But we'll go from there. Hey, man. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you for joining the stream, man. Very, very cool. So I'm not sure I understand your question here, Blues. Will we ever see an ITX version release compatible with the Crosshair Impact? So I'm not sure what your question means there, because that board, it's mini DTX. We do have ITX-based versions, specifically of the Dash I series, both for X570 and B550. And there's quite a number of chassis that do support the Crosshair Impact, even though it's mini DTX that will fit in that chassis. But if you can clarify specifically what you mean in terms of kind of interoperability, compatibility, let me know. But you know, we definitely do actually take mindful consideration when it comes to kind of the design layout on boards. It's called mechanical conflict and mechanical design consideration. And definitely our team does spend a lot of time to try to logistically lay out boards in a sensible way so that when they go in, especially in a small form factor configuration, we have things like cutoff zones and tolerance zones to be able to make sure that, you know, you have the right Z height and X axis heights so that things, you know, kind of work well together. Yeah, so Brian, I would definitely say check out our PCDIY group. We even have a dedicated hashtag just for white builds, and you will see tons of white-based builds that don't require, quote-unquote, a full all-white motherboard, that have been based off of our Prime Series motherboard and been based off of our... Actually, let me see if I can just pull one up here before I jump into our next thing. I don't want to spend too much time to kind of break things apart here, but... this seems to be a popular topic, so I want to just be able to kind of show some things off here. So let me jump into, I think, a good example. As I noted, I think this build that I want to show off here is going to be probably from Snef. And he's a great kind of modder builder that we work with that has done a lot of different really cool builds with us. And this build, I believe, was done on the B550 based chipset. So it's going to be the B550 Strix-A. And so it is a good kind of example of how you can take, quote unquote, a board that you might not perceive by default just because it's all white, that you somehow are limited in terms of having a white themed build, right? So let me just go ahead and bring up this image here and see if we can bring that up here. Find the image. Yeah, all right, great. Here we go. Okay, so I did find it. So let me go ahead and see if I can share this with you guys. There we go. Okay. Okay, so here you guys can see this is actually one of his builds right here, right? This was actually built for a user in a contest. Now you can see there's some RGB lighting, but if he was to turn off the lighting, it would actually be entirely pretty much white. Now here he actually went with a vertical-based GPU setup, and I'm actually not always the fan of a vertical GPU-based setup, but you know, this was what the user was looking for. But if you did actually have it set up in there, you would still have a very clean kind of white aesthetic. And you can see that the key kind of areas that are highlighted still reinforce that white thematic theme. So they still very much give you that. And rest assured, there's many examples like this we have within the group that really do a great job of showing you that you can have a very quote-unquote white themed build without having necessarily, like I said, a white motherboard. So hopefully that helps to answer that for you guys. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and let me jump into next kind of new product announcement that we've got right here. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free and let me know. So next one we're going to have right here is going to be the ROG Falchion. So this is our ultra kind of compact wireless based keyboard. It is kind of even smaller, more compact than a TKL based keyboard. So this is a TKL based keyboard. Of course, that means essentially there's no 10 key, there's no numpad that's on the actual keyboard. And it's been a very, very popular model. So for those of you essentially who are not familiar with the Falchion, let me go ahead and just show you an image of it. We launched this model a little while back. but we also now have some new updates. So it's essentially not a replacement, just essentially some additional switch versions. So the original version that essentially launched with the Felchion was the Cherry MX Reds, but we have now expanded that we also have blues, and browns will be coming in shortly. The blues are right now readily available, so you can actually go directly to, let's say, the ASUS eStore, and it's actually available online. And the browns probably will be available by, I'd say, the close to the 3rd week, if not the 4th week of August. It depends. As we kind of push out product into distribution channels, there's always some logistical variance in terms of how long it takes them to kind of skew up and list the product. But I would expect that probably you would see our eStore as well as other kind of e-tailers have it probably up and listed probably sometime, like I said, around the end of August, a time frame. So again, that means that we have 3 different switches that are going to be available for the Felchion. You've got your reds, you've got your blues, and you've got your browns. So we've pretty much kind of covered all the bases right there when it comes to the different switch configurations. And if you're kind of not familiar with some of the kind of the cool design elements, I can quickly just touch on some of those cool things here with the Felchion. So let me just show you kind of some of the cool stuff that this keyboard has to offer right here. I definitely would agree. If you're talking about Snef's build, it looks beautiful. And again, this is the great thing about the PCDIY group. We have, like I said, dedicated tags that are in there. So you can go to white and you can just kind of get your reference of like the different kind of color themes. So we've got people that just went pure white. We've got people that got different types of purple, pinks, and blues. We've got people that done blue and a white, you know, white on white. There's a lot of different kind of permutations, but they're all featured in there. So the Felchion comes cool with actually a dual case cover design, so you can rest it on there. You can actually cover the keyboard because it's designed kind of for portability. You'll see that there it's a 65% form factor, so quite a bit compact in terms of the overall design. It has a cool touch bar that's on the side, which you can use for adjustment to a wide range of functions, especially as a volume adjustment, which is really nice though. So even though you have this more compact design, you can go ahead and make kind of key on the fly adjustments there. So that's pretty cool. There you can see it's a little bit more closely customized, and this is remappable within the Armoury Crate software, so you have a lot of choice in terms of what that actual kind of touch bar interface will allow for. There is onboard memory that's on the unit, so you can have specific types of profiles set up for desktop usage as opposed to kind of game usage. You can, of course, use this in a wired configuration, and when utilizing it in wireless, it uses low latency 2.4 gigahertz. So definitely very good in terms of being a gaming grade wireless based connection. You can see outstanding battery life up to 450 hours. Keep in mind, of course, that's going to be, you know, ultimately with lighting off. Of course, with your RGB lighting, depending on your pattern, your preset, you know, the level of kind of addressable updating that's going on, you know, your battery life may be lower. So you have to keep in mind that kind of the battery life can very much vary depending if you maybe have like a static color versus opposed to like a rainbow color. Even kind of the speed, depending on your lighting settings, is you can, you know, take for instance something like a rainbow setting, you can have 5 different speed levels, right? And that actually will affect the battery consumption. Some of the other cool stuff there is that here you got the double shot PPD keycap, so that essentially just helps to reduce wear against Legends. They are essentially going to be a little bit more stable as well, and of course they're just better in terms of the long-term durability. They've got a little more resistance against oils and kind of things like that. They are going to be released from your hand, especially when you're using a keyboard very heavily. And because it's using standard Cherry MX based keys, you can, of course, also customize that. You can see there the onboard memory function, key function, the touch screen, and then also quick charging support. Not many keyboards support quick charging, but this actual keyboard does support quick charging. So again, you can pick this guy up on the ASUS eStore for, like I said, a in the reds and in the blues, and upcoming soon in the browns. All right, next up, Claymore II update. So that is this guy right here. So many of you already know about this awesome keyboard. Absolutely kind of one of my absolute favorite keyboards right here. This was a recent update from us, and the cool thing about this one, from probably most of you already know, but the cool thing right here is that you can, of course, remove the actual numpad, and you can go to the left or to the right. So that's great because you can essentially have a TKL-based setup, can optimize your actual layout for giving you kind of that best ergonomics to not strain your hand to kind of be pushed over right here on your arm, so that you can have this really close and tight when you want to. You're good to go. And then if you still wanted access to, let's say, the numpad, Bam, I can go ahead and just move it right over here to the other side. Now it's docked on the other side, and I can have access to the volume wheel that's on here, to the macro keys, and to the number keys, and still then have kind of a normal setup. So really, really, really nice. And of course, if you don't need it at all, just remove it again, or you can move it back to the other side. This is a fully wireless version keyboard, and the big update for this one is we now have the blues available, so you can hear it. Let me give you guys a little bit of that, you know. So those of you guys that like that clickiness, there you go. You got those blues. You still get all the really amazing benefits here of the keyboard. So I think I've got a cool little video for you guys. Let me actually just turn down the. Actually, yes, is that the right one? Actually, that's the wrong one. That's for another product I'm going to show you guys here in a moment. There we go. Sorry, guys. So yes, so we launched the reds, and now we're going to have the blues. You still get the optical based, of course, ROG RX switch, which has better lighting. It has essentially, of course, a zero debounce delay. You, of course, also are going to have that reduced wobble and key chatter because of the specialized design, which you can see right here. This is a key part, that the actual force deviation consistency is really stable and consistent because of the actual stem design that we utilize here. It really is a great experience. I'm sure you guys will probably see some maybe comments from some guys in here in the community that maybe already have this keyboard. Absolutely love it. It has become my daily driver. I'm a big fan of the reds that we have available. I can do a quick sound test kind of between the two if you guys want to hear between the two, but the blues are now available. They will be available more broadly in terms of the channel as we kind of go into the next month, but you can pick up the blues right now on the ASUS eStore if you're interested. So we now have the reds and we have the blues. So let me go ahead and just do a little bit of a sound test for you guys, and we'll go from there. Hey Wes, if that's you, man, thanks for stopping by, man. Great to have you here, man. Yep, very, very cool. Yes, so we actually have quite a number of keyboards that would just have brown switches. So we have the ROG Flare, we have the ROG Strix Scope series, the TKL and the non-TKL series. So you can pretty much get those in multiple other models that you have available. So we got you covered. Doesn't matter. And keep in mind that the Claymore here, the Claymore does also have an actual hardwired connection option here, so USB-C. So you can do 2.4 gigahertz, or you can do a hardwired connection. So it's not that it's only a wireless-based keyboard. You can go either route. So let's just go with the reds here. Okay, and now we'll go with the blues. Both sound great. Really, because this comes down to your preference. I will tell you the reds, I feel like that the reds are quieter than standard Cherry MX reds, closer to probably like kind of a silent MX red, or kind of a red that you might use an O-ring on. So it has a little bit more of a damped feeling, a little bit more of a damped down audio cue to it. So that's it, guys. That is the update there for the Claymore. I believe I can put the update for you there, and see if I can put the update for you guys there in the stream. I think I have that. Yep, there it goes. So that is the stream link right there, guys. ROG Claymore II. You can get it now in red, and you can get it in the blues. Either one, up to you. All right, guys. Okay, very cool. Let me see if there's any questions that came up there. Yeah, Derek, you're 100% right. So Derek is actually commenting about the reduced key wobble, and that's really kind of the key experience right there. If you guys actually, let me just show that one last quick thing for some that you may not kind of be aware. I guess I can kind of show you right here. Give me a second, and I can kind of show you this. So there we go. All right, guys. So if you guys actually take a look right here, here's the keyboard, right? And so if we actually lift this, you'll actually see right there that that 4-point stem-based design, that's actually what really allows there to be much more consistency, because there's actually 4 points right there, right? So if we actually pull that out, you can actually see more closely there that you have your 4 points, right? This is an engineering sample, so this is going to look maybe a little bit rougher, but it still looks quite accurate. But that 4-point design essentially allows for this to have a much more consistent depression on each one of those points. Okay, so that is what you got right there. Okay, guys, so that covers us there. Claymore II. Next, we've got the ROG Strix Scope Rx. So, of course, the RX is going to be just essentially the fully wired version of the same keyboard, right? So, well, not exactly the same keyboard. It is going to be a little bit different, but the Scope RX, let me go ahead and just load up a picture here, and I will show you guys. This one also, you will essentially now have the same thing in terms of availability, that you can get this one in terms of both your reds and your blues. So you can get it in the ROG RX Red or the ROG RX Blue. But this is a full hardwired keyboard. And of course, you can't remove the numpad design. But I absolutely love this keyboard. Really nice, clean, stylized silhouette. It's also quite a bit cheaper than, of course, the Claymore, because it's not a wireless-based keyboard. I believe $129 is the MSRP. Really great price point, I think, for this model. And this one also includes USB pass-through, which I'm a big fan of. So if you want essentially the flexibility of USB pass-through, then you're going to have that with this model. One really other cool thing, too, that you have available to you with the ROG Strix Scope Rx that you may not be aware of is going to be that because it uses optical-based switches and because of its design, this actual model is really going to be friendly for kind of like liquid, water, dust, debris, dander, ingress, essentially resistance. So you actually, compared to kind of like most keyboards, which generally don't have kind of resistance in that regard, we do validate this to actually have an IP-based rating, so IP56 resistance. So you don't actually have to be as concerned where if you potentially were to spill something on this keyboard. So it's a key benefit, kind of like in our previous generation where we had the TUF Gaming K7, which was our first optical-based keyboard. This model does give you that flexibility compared to, let's say, a traditional Cherry MX-based keyboard. So it's a really cool level of functionality that you have. Most of the other elements, are going to be pretty straightforward. Like I said, you've got that USB pass-through that's on there that you have available to you. It does have that larger control key, which is nice, so that when you're kind of reaching over with your pinky, just makes things a little bit easier in terms of like crouching and different kind of scenarios where, of course, you're going to be using that key. And we also maintain, of course, the ROG Stealth key, so you can automatically minimize and mute everything really easily. Quick toggle. I love that the actual media keys are prioritized as their default. So that means like play, play, pause, mute, things like that. They're already essentially auto-enabled as the default. And then if you want to use a function key, you will press the function to access those items. But of course, you can fully customize all of those things within the ROG Armory Crate software, right? And again, that model is available. Do I have a link for it? Yep, I have a link for it here. And that is going to be, like I said, for the ROG Strix Scope RX 129, guys. Okay, very cool. So let me go over to the next item here. All right, so we got the Felchion update, Claymore II update, ROG Strix Scope update out of the way. Okay, so let me go ahead and, yeah, so actually, that's a good, I brought up the K7 and you might have brought up the K7. The K7 has actually been kind of EOL, so you might still find it online. It's a great keyboard. Actually, I covered it in a dedicated stream if you're interested in finding about the vast majority of our TUF Gaming-based peripherals. Still a really nice option, but it's no longer one that we actively have available on the market. I believe right now the only active SKUs that we have are the K5, the K3, and the K1 keyboards. Okay. Okay, so let me go ahead and go to our next update here, and that's going to be with see here, guys. Okay, here we go. Yep. New update with the SCABBARD. Okay, so some of you may be aware, of course, we've got gaming surfaces. I'm using right here the ROG Sheath. This is like a large desk mat, but the SCABBARD is our kind of newer version that we had an update to with the compared to the original SCABBARD I, which was Cordura, and now the SCABBARD II, essentially the kind of claim to fame that it had was that it was utilizing essentially a tighter weave-based textile design along with a specialized nano coating, which essentially helped it to be resistant against dust, debris, dander, kind of oil buildup, things along those lines. But we've now got a medium version that will be coming out. So right now, it's not available. Right now, we're still pretty much talking about kind of new products or products that are right now just coming out in terms of availability. But we do have the SCABBARD II medium. So you can here see kind of proportional size difference. It's much more kind of in that standard mouse pad size as opposed to a desk mat size that you have available to you. But all the other kind of key benefits that you have with the SCABBARD II are going to be present here in the SCABBARD II medium. It's just a smaller version of it. And probably we expect to have this, I'd say, around very early Q4 timeframe. So make sure to keep it tuned here for kind of announcements. But it is a really great design. And like I said, if you're kind of somebody that eats a lot more, maybe you sweat a lot more, you have more concerns about kind of dust, debris, dander kind of build up on there, then this is beneficial. And one thing I will tell you is that with a nano coating like this, you actually want to probably be more consistent about wiping the surface, because since the actual material, the textile itself, is actually repelling it from settling into the weave, then you actually want to be a little more consistent with just taking like a lint-free cloth or a lightly damped terry cloth towel and just wiping the surface so you can kind of get everything off there, as opposed to letting it sit and kind of cling to the mat. And that's probably generally a good idea in general, kind of with most of these kind of gaming surfaces. Really the only one that was really kind of different than this would be like a hard gaming surface, which is like what I have right here, which would be with the ROG Botless, where you can of course pretty much wipe this indefinitely. You don't have to worry about anything getting into the surface, or what we previously offered with the ROG Whetstone, which I really wish we still offered, which was fully made out of silicone, and you could kind of roll it, you could put it through hot water. It was absolutely fantastic for somebody that really wanted a super durable and reliable mouse pad kind of offering. But we no longer offer that model. So ROG SCABBARD II is another update there. All right, guys. So now let's get into, I think actually I've got one other new update, which is, it's a little bit of a kind of a partial update, not a full brand new product update. And that is going to be with the TUF Gaming combo. So this combo is going to be the TUF Gaming combo that we will have with specific e-tailers. This will be the K5 gaming keyboard with the M5 mouse, and I think the MSRP for this is going to be coming in at approximately, I think, $70. $70 or $80. You can definitely confirm on that information in our PCDIY Facebook group, or I'll make sure to post it in the chat after the fact on the stream. But this will be coming hopefully by the end of August timeframe. Really great option if you're looking to just upgrade to an AuraSync compatible keyboard and mouse that, you know, is solid in terms of feature set. It's not going to, of course, feature, you know, the ultra higher end kind of mechanical based switches you're going to have here, but they're soft, they're responsive, they're good quality, they offer RGB lighting, and of course they can be synchronized with the entire ASUS Aura ecosystem. And I think for the price point to be able to get both the mouse and keyboard together, definitely a nice value add. So that is going to be an update that we have there. Okay. So let me go ahead and now touch on just a couple of general availability updates. This will include also the PG series monitor, which I know some of you guys have, of course, also been wondering about. So first up, we're going to have the Gladius III wired. So many of you know already about this guy. This is the Gladius III. I guess I can turn on that RGB, right? You know, you guys like that RGB. And actually, turn it the other way because that's Bluetooth, because this is actually a tri-mode based mouse. But here, the Gladius III, we offer it in two different versions, the wired version and the wireless version. So I can do a little bit of a closer shot for you guys, but we now actually have this mouse available. It is online on the ASUS eStore, so you can go ahead and pick this guy up. It's really a fantastic mouse. Keep in mind that, of course, really the claim to the fame with it is going to be, I think, the build quality is really outstanding. So if you're somebody that doesn't like creaking or kind of you don't like solid feeling mice, that's really one of the key value points that we have within the Gladius series design. Really, really good construction, lightweight. It has our new, what do we call our ROG paracord, which is a specially designed cable, ultra lightweight. Now, of course, the wired version comes already with it attached. Now, one of the cool things too is we use 100% PTFE feet. These are our Omni feet, so they have outstanding movement and kind of tracking performance across any surface. But the cool thing, and I'm sure many of you already know, is that you can go ahead and customize the switches. And the Gladius III is really unique because it's the only mouse on the market that gives you the ability to support mechanical and optical switches. So there are these little rubber grommets here. So let me see if I can just remove these two. There's two little grommets there. We'll show you guys right here and our close-up cam. You can see right there, remove the grommets. There's two screws. So then from there, all you need to do is just remove the screw. Hey, Derek, I'll answer your question there in a moment. Let me see if I can get a second. But pretty much there, you remove that, and now you have access to your micro switches. So go ahead and tighten that up. So there you can see right here, these are the Omron optical micro switches, but you could totally remove those and you could go with a different set of switches. Here you can actually see all these different micro switches are actually all ones that I've tried out and could be utilized. These are our ROG micro switches. They're rated for 70 million clicks. They're gold plated at the electrical junction for outstanding reliability and performance. They have a really nice tactile feel to them, super sharp, outstanding performance as well in terms of that. If you didn't want to go with an Omron optical switch, it's entirely up to you, but it's literally that simple. You don't have any type of soldering that's required. You can literally customize the switches to whatever you'd like, and then from there you're good to go. And a cool hack for those of you, if you wanted to try something is I can tell you, you could use something like these guys. You have to file them actually, but these are silent switches. Very, very quiet, very soft, and you can actually customize these to actually work inside of the mouse. They're not part of our formally validated list, but they can work. But there you go. That is really kind of one of the really cool design attributes there of our ROG mice, where pretty much almost all the ROG mice have this push-fit socket design. Only the latest ROG 3 Gladius, the Gladius 3 does support optical and mechanical micro switches because it's push-fit socket 2 design. All the other ones can support, of course, your standard micro switches that are available to you. If you want to find out more about that, we have a full live stream that we have on our YouTube channel that dives actually into kind of micro switches and customizing them and kind of the different type of actuation experience. You know, if you want to have one that's a little bit crisper, one that's a little bit more damp, one that's a little bit softer, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can play around with that. All right, so let me just go ahead, and you can see it's just that simple. Literally, there's just two screws. You put that back, you're good to go, and you've customized your mouse. That's it, super simple. So Gladius 3, as I noted there, it is available on our e-store and will be more available more broadly online. So you can pick that up there. Okay. All right, so next up here, let's see our next update. Claymore II, Falchion, Gladius III. This guy, great right here. We have the TUF Gaming H3 wireless headset. This was also one that I announced a while back, and it is now also available online. I believe also you can. It is first right now listed on the ASUS eStore. So this is, I think, a really great value proposition. At $100, it's a full 2.4 gigahertz USB-C wireless headset. Good tonality and tone. It's got good, sharp, treble performance, but without being overly brittle or kind of sharp. Good mid-range, good bass extension. Microphone is solid, and it's comfortable and pretty reasonable in terms of lightweight. I like the USB-C dongle because you can easily just kind of remove that. You could attach it to literally your phone. You could attach it to, your desktop. You could attach it to your laptop. You could even attach it to your Nintendo Switch, right? It's really nice and flexible that it has that native USB-C connection that's on there. So it is a great option. And like I said, for $100, I think it might be overall our best value-oriented headset. The ROG Delta Core, which is an analog wired-based model, is a little bit less expensive. And I think a very good option, but I think with a lot of people now favoring wireless in terms of their headset, it's a really great model to consider. So here you can see right there, 15 hours in terms of the overall battery life, very good distance in terms of the overall coverage that you can expect from it. There is virtual surround options along with EQ options that are available in the ROG Armoury Crate. So if you kind of want to tweak and tune and tailor the sound, you can go with different presets, targeting, of course, things like footsteps, audio cues, or of course you can go with a more flat kind of standard type of EQ. All that is adjustable, and you can configure those elements within the Armoury Crate software. And of course, we have validated it with services like Discord and TeamSpeak. And I like this here, also the on-ear cup design. So really easy to be able to easily adjust things like your volume. You can see that USB-C charge connection right there, right? The power switch, really sensible controls right there and accessible, good to go. So nice model, definitely. And like I said, that is now also available right now on the ASUS eStore. And like I said, you'll probably see it a little bit more broadly available at e-tailers as we move towards the end of the month. One sec, guys. Hey, Thwana. Yeah, so there's users that always kind of make comments regarding, what they feel as far as the interoperability of software. I can tell you that we've really focused to really continue to improve the Armoury Crate software experience. Similar to kind of like somebody might make a comment on, let's say, Windows in terms of its kind of core functionality. There can be big differences between Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, and now even Windows 11, right? Armoury Crate launched with an original V1. We're now at version 4.1.6, and we're going to be coming out with version 4.2 soon. And there's been specific continued improvements to improve the overall stability, functionality, performance, the smoothness to installation, offering a more advanced uninstall tool, and overall the robustness of the utility. Actually, Armoury Crate, for some of you might not realize, it's the most broadly accessible utility that's right now exists in the PC component ecosystem. It applies everything from all ASUS peripherals, all ASUS components, our system-related products, and even phones, right? So we have a heavy investment to continually keep improving and enhancing the overall core experience and functionality of that. We have now a dedicated dev team that monitors our Armoury Crate forum for consistent updating, and I would probably say that we update the application almost on a about bi-weekly basis. Like I said, covering many of those areas. So I definitely would give feedback. If you want to see continued areas of improvement, but I do feel that from an overall usability and functionality level, we have a wide number of users that do utilize the software and have a good experience with it. One of the challenges I will note though for users that do have an RGB ecosystem is that running a multi-RGB ecosystem can be problematic, even with partners where we do have what is called coordinated sync, such for instance Corsair, where we do have some coordinated sync with iQ, NZXT, where we have some coordinated sync with CAM. When you have codependence on utilities, just like with popular applications, drivers, Windows builds, one application can be updated and it can cause an effect to another application. So you are going to potentially be running into more interoperability issues when you run a multi-pronged software ecosystem experience as opposed to a fully unified one application ecosystem experience. And that is just the reality of having software and having codependencies that are tied into it, right? That being noted, we definitely feel that we are continuing to improve upon that. And I think that you'll find many users within our group that it would actually show you that they're using the software on a daily basis. And it is, like I said, usable and functional, which I think are the important parts, right? You're 100% right. We do have Philips lighting support as well. So let's go ahead and go with our next update here, guys. And we'll keep this ball rolling. All right, so we've got, do we want to make you guys wait anymore on the PG279? Let's go ahead and actually touch on that guy there in terms of just an availability update, right? So for many of you who've been wondering about this is kind of a dream monitor for many of you. It's a 1440p, of course, 240 Hertz, includes NVIDIA G-Sync module there, which of course has key benefits to advanced, of course, overdrive compensation and many other elements. A really outstanding monitor, and so many users have been wondering about when it will be available. And so we have essentially received our initial shipment. It is now actually working to be coordinated to be pushed out to distribution channel. This was already an update that was already provided to our PCDIY Facebook group and also in our product release calendar. So an important thing you guys want to keep in mind is that once we actually receive our initial essentially inventory and it rolls out to distribution, it can be a little bit difficult to give an exact targeted time frame. And the the reason why is because there's, of course, logistical differences, not only in terms of the shipping, especially in a pandemic-based era that we're right now in, but you also have respective e-tailer and retailer logistic processing timelines, right? So it might take them a certain amount of time to actually receive the product, process it in, get it listed into their inventory systems, and then list it online. That being noted, the expectation would be that for the majority of kind of our key channel partners, we'd expect for the listings to start occurring towards the very end of August timeframe. If there happens to be kind of any new updates that kind of come up before that time frame, we'll definitely make sure to announce them within the community. But I would start to actually look for online listings within, like I said, that resident target of about the 3rd to 4th week of August. Okay, so we're really excited about this, and I think a lot of you guys that have been waiting for this monitor are going to be super happy with it. And speaking of monitors, we do have quite a number of other monitors that we do want to touch on here. There's also going to be the availability for the XG43UQ. So this is, of course, a big, large format based monitor, really kind of focused at users that are looking for a big immersive based display, you know, whether it's going to be for PC or also console based connectivity. Here, this is also going to be similar to the PG279QM, where you're going to be looking at availability towards the end of August time frame. Just kind of recap here for some of you kind of may be wondering what it's like. It's a 43-inch based monitor right here, supports DSC, so of course you can have high refresh rate and high resolution support. You've got the HDMI 2.1 connectivity. Keep in mind though that for the majority of consoles, while 2.1 has received a lot of hype, it's not necessarily critical. Most consoles that you're talking about, whether PlayStation or Xbox, don't render games natively at 4K and a high refresh rate. Generally, the high refresh rate is usually going to be most often at 1080p, which can be done with actually HDMI 2.0B. So as long as the monitor you have, which we have many monitors that support high refresh rate with HDMI 2.0B, that might actually be a better choice for you. The Xbox is a little bit unique because the Xbox also does support high refresh rate at 1440p, and consoles are interesting because they have many kind of adaptive and checkerboard based resolutions where they're not running like always at 4K. They might have like adaptive resolutions that are incremental. But in most scenarios, usually when they are targeting a high refresh rate value, it's usually at 120 hertz, 120 frames a second. So that's your refresh rate target. So you don't generally need HDMI 2.1. 2.1 is just kind of like this great specification that will kind of give you everything. And in some rare scenario, if you needed that ultra high refresh rate and could also run at that high resolution, then it'd be beneficial. But oddly enough, that's most needed on the PC platform where we have the hardware that could actually render performance for those resolutions and for those frame rates, right? Some other cool features this, of course, has is going to be that it also does have two 10-watt speakers, which actually are pretty punchy and dynamic, which is great for kind of more usage, not only when gaming, but maybe watching videos online, you know, streaming services, you know, YouTube videos, or maybe your PCDIY live stream. It does also have an anti-glare screen and also comes with a remote control. It does also feature our display widget software. Some people don't know this, but display widget's pretty cool because it's software that works in Windows where you can actually control all the on-screen display functions. So you don't actually have to go and touch the physical controls, which makes it really nice if you want to customize like different profiles, where you want to have a profile for, let's say, your web browser and for your game, different types of configurations. Not all our monitors feature display widget, so just keep that in mind, but this monitor does. Of course, it supports up to 144 Hertz as well. And it does support FreeSync, which is great for VRR support, and it supports ELMB. If you don't know what ELMB is, it's essentially a form of backlight strobing, which can really help to improve motion clarity. It's a great feature, and I strongly recommend, if you've never tried it out on our monitors, try it out, because for some users, they can actually find that ELMB can offer a better level of kind of motion clarity improvement than actually going to an ultra high refresh rate monitor. Okay. All right, guys, so that is, and then you can see kind of all the connectivity that's available there on the XG43UQ. Lastly, we've got the XG27UQR. That's another update that we have there, kind of speaking of the 4K, 144 Hertz. This is going to be a similar base model that we are also now announcing. And this is going to be a great option right there for you guys that are looking for essentially 27 inches, that 4K, and that high refresh rate. And it features our new ID design. So with the new ID design, it's a little bit kind of more stylized, clean, and kind of very I'd say subtle in terms of the design, right? Where the previous model looks still cool, but it had that kind of copper accent here. Now here, pretty much everything goes all black in terms of that. And same thing, this model, you should be looking towards availability towards the very end of August. Okay. Let me just see if I see any questions right there. Hey, Randy. So you're asking about the PG32UQ. We do have that actually in the product release calendar. Same thing. Probably availability is going to be close to maybe the very end of August, early September timeframe. You can find out more information there by checking out the PCDIY release calendar that we have in the PCDIY Facebook group, because like I said, I update that on a weekly basis, including with new product releases. But that overall would be what you would be looking at in terms of the overall kind of release time frame. Okay. Let me just see if I see anything there. Okay, that looks good. All right. So lastly, I want to touch on the... do I have it here? I thought I had it here, but it's going to be the SPATHA X. So the SPATHA X was another kind of mouse that we kind of announced quite a bit back, and was for a lot of people that were looking for a larger mouse. I myself, I'm 6'2", a little bit over 200 pounds, right? And some people like me that have larger hands kind of want really a mouse that they can comfortably kind of palm over, gives a little bit more space for kind of these two fingers right here, maybe a little bit more rest area for the thumb. Can also maybe appreciate, like I said, just a little bit more flexibility for kind of that. In that regard here, the SPATHA X is really kind of a dream mouse. It gives you not only, of course, that kind of larger size, but also gives you wired and wireless connectivity, tons of buttons. You have, of course, customization elements to it. This is an outstanding based mouse. I'm a big fan of it. And in terms of the overall, sorry, let me actually go ahead and see if I can show you this, guys, here. There we go. This model is now listed online. I believe you can already find it now pre-listed on Amazon. You should see the majority of our other e-tailers get ready to list this in the coming next couple of weeks. But you should start seeing it in terms of availability by the probably in the next kind of 2 to 3 weeks. As you can see here, this mouse also does support the push-fit socket design. It's been updated with the USB-C. Full wireless ASUS RS Sync support, longer battery life. You can see that it's got that really cool magnetic base as well there for charging base purposes. Really, really nice kind of additional offering that we'll have. And we'll actually be doing a full peripheral wireless live stream where we're going to cover almost the majority of our wireless mice and wireless peripherals coming up probably next week. So make sure to keep it tuned. If you want to find out kind of a deep dive in specifically our wireless mice, we can go from the lightest wireless option that we offer to the heaviest, from the smallest to kind of the largest, and kind of give you kind of a little bit of a deeper insight into kind of our cool range of peripherals. Okay, cool. So, oh, very cool, Derek. Glad to know that you've already got it right there. So that's very cool. So lastly, I've got just 2 minor updates, I believe, in terms of just some new general products. So just recap, we talked about the Claymore II. You can get it in, of course, your ROG RX red switches, blue switches. The Felchion, which was originally launched in Cherry MX Reds, which you can now get in blues and upcoming shortly in browns. Gladius III wired, which is available. TUF Gaming H3 wireless headset, which is available. PG279QM in terms of availability, which will be coming up shortly. The ROG SCABBARD II medium, which will be coming up in Q4. The ROG Strix Scope Rx, which again, just like the Claymore II, you can get in reds and blues. The ROG SPATHA X, which right now is available in terms of pre-order. The TUF Gaming Combo, which was a great kind of value combination for those that are on a more limited budget, that are looking for a gaming keyboard and mouse. It's going to be, I believe it's either $70 or $80. And then the XG27UQR 27-inch 4K up to 144 Hertz. And then also the XG43UQ, same thing, 4K with up to 144 Hertz support. So the last 2 monitors I've got are going to be kind of a little bit of a mix here. Definitely on the kind of a little bit more, I'd say, on the entry side of the fence here. We have the VA, I believe this is, let me double check here. Yes, this is going to be the the VA24 DCP. This is going to be definitely a little bit more of an entry model. This is just, I would say, a great option if you're just looking to kind of upgrade to maybe a monitor for secondary system, or a system where it's not like super critical for maybe gaming purposes, or where you have a super high kind of requirement in terms of kind of the specifications, right? This is definitely going to be a more budget-oriented monitor. We should have this, like I said, in the next couple of weeks, but you know, it's 23.8 inches, full HD, IPS-based display. Does support USB-C connectivity, including 65 watts, which is nice, and up to 75 Hertz. So a little bit of a bump up in terms of the refresh rate, and also supports adaptive sync, FreeSync based support. Does also give you base amount support as well. So it actually's got a pretty decent range of kind of like specifications right here. And as you saw, it had thin bezels, so it's also nice for kind of like a dual monitor configuration. Again, if you're not looking for something that's going to be super expensive, but still give you USB-C connectivity, nice to be able to flexibly go from, let's say, like a laptop to maybe a desktop-based configuration. Not, like I said, super expensive, good color reproduction, and solid 1080p resolution. It's going to be a solid choice for you there. And one gaming display that we'll have is going to be the VG, which is a VG, for those of you who aren't aware, kind of has always been a little bit more kind of price aggressive, value oriented based monitors. So these are usually going to be monitors that are going to be positioned definitely underneath, you know, 250, around $200. Sometimes it just depends on the price point that is set for the MSRP. But this is going to be, again, 23.8 inches, 1080p, 75 Hertz, 1 millisecond, I think, MPRT response time, FreeSync, and thin bezel-based design. 2-watt speakers. Again, this is not going to be focused, I think, for those of you that are super critical as far as wanting ultra high refresh rate, ultra high brightness, high refresh rate targets. For that, we've definitely got TUF Gaming based monitors that I think definitely are very cost accessible, that can go into 24, 27 inches, 25 inches, up to 165 Hertz, that are very good in terms of the value proposition, both ultra high fast TN based panels if you want super low response time, or fast IPS if you want low response time, and even better off axis viewing and color performance. So that wraps up, I think, all my new announcements. So you can see quite a bit packed in there. We had a little bit of everything kind of all bundled in. So let me just go ahead and just see if we've got any kind of pending questions from anybody on any items that I can go ahead and touch on as part of the Q&A. Now, normally, let me actually go ahead and bring up our PCDIY Builders Spotlight. So we won't have the Builder Spotlight this week. I will be bringing it back next week, just because I need to go actually through all the submissions that we've had for people that submitted. But normally, as part of this stream, we also have our PCDIY Build and Builder Spotlight. Essentially, what this is it gives you guys the opportunity to submit your builds to be featured on the stream, kind of talk about the specifications, the design, my thoughts on the overall look and feedback. We can also see what the community thinks of it. It's just a great way to be able to show off what you guys are doing. So from whether it's a mini ITX system to an ATX system, air-cooled to water-cooled, whether you're using it for content creation or we're using it for gaming, it doesn't matter. Feel free to go ahead and submit it. We just have a simple form. You can upload your photos. It tells you the hardware-based requirement configurations there, but it's not budget-based, so it could literally be an entry-level build to, of course, an ultra high-end build. I've shown off, I think, just about every single type of build on here when it comes to, I think, form factor, size, and kind of budget based configurations. And so it's one of my favorite parts of the actual PC DIY experience here. So let me just actually show you what that looks like here, guys. And if you're interested, then I'll show you kind of all you need to do for that. One thing that I did forget to put in here also is that keep in mind shortly that we will be having our live stream that will also be diving into some performance tuning and some insights for those of you that are going to be interested in Ryzen 5000G processors. We've got some cool pairings that I'm going to be doing with kind of B452 and B550. So that's a great option for those of you that are kind of maybe just looking for a standard system that doesn't require a graphics card, maybe for just kind of basic gaming purposes or just kind of general desktop usage. We're also going to be having an updated RGB guide that I'll be releasing that aligns with kind of our new version of Armory Crate. We've got a DOCP tuning guide that's also going to be coming up. A lot of really good stuff that we have planned here for our future live streams and video content on the ASUS North America YouTube channel. All right, yeah, I've got it right here. So let me go ahead and just share this with you guys. There you go. Okay. So this is it. You just have to go into our PCDIY Facebook group. You can see right here, guys, we have essentially our builder spotlight. This is a great build example from SNEF, where I just showed kind of the angles that we usually like to have, like a front forward kind of angle, maybe one with RGB lighting on or off if you've got RGB lighting in your system, and then kind of a little bit more of a focused kind of close-up shot. There's a form that you use to submit for your system, and that's pretty much all that's required. From there, you can actually see that there's actually people that submit their systems, and we feature them here on the stream, and super excited about it. So if you're interested in having your system shown off, go ahead and submit it. All right, guys. So let me go ahead and just check if there's any pending questions from anybody else here. If not, then we will wrap things up and hopefully join you guys for the next stream. So let me just see right here. Okay, so Justin's asking about the ROG Strix Lc 2 360 ARGB. So we already launched the ROG, for anybody, I guess I can actually show this here if anybody's wondering about like what product is he talking about here. C2. The LC2 series is, we have a different, essentially an updated line that are featuring the 7th gen pumps. So we do have, essentially the 280 version has already launched. The 240 and the 360 variants, those other models will be coming in the not too distant future. We'll actually have a dedicated live stream that will be covering the Ryujin 2, which is the one with the ultra large 3.5-inch LCD screen, the ROG Strix Lc2 and the TUF Gaming Lc2 models in the not too distant future. Probably sometime in August, we'll actually be covering the launch time frame, and that will kind of align with the overall availability update. But I think probably overall, we might see maybe availability towards the end of August, and it will kind of bleed into probably September for these refresh models for the Ryujin 2, for the Strix Lc 240 and Lc 360 version 2, as well as the TUF Gaming version 2 AIOs. But the 280 variant is now already available online, and you'll continue to see it kind of a little bit more broadly available as we kind of move forward. So hopefully that answers your question there with that cooler. Okay. Let me just see here. Oh, hey, Derek. So Derek's asking about kind of placement for our ROG Theta. So our ROG Theta is kind of like our highest end 7.1 multi-driver large headset. It's kind of the upgraded version of what we have with the ROG Delta. It doesn't really necessarily have a quote-unquote optimized placement. We already actually angle kind of the actual ear cups in a certain what we call angled fashion, where it's sloped in a bit to actually help to have better alignment with the canals and give you actually a good balance there. One difference that you do want to keep in mind is that you may actually want to change from kind of stereo-based configuration to multi-channel-based configuration. And also both the Theta and the Delta come with swappable ear cups. This is actually a cool thing that not as many people realize that we offer on our headsets. Specifically the ROG models, where one comes with 2 different ear pads, and the ear pads themselves have different properties in terms of kind of cooling, breathability, and isolation, but that can actually also affect sound. So you actually may want to try different ones and see, outside of maybe customizing the EQ, if you have like a preference in terms of kind of the configuration for kind of your listening experience, right, and your comfort experience as well. So hopefully that answers your question in terms of that. All right. Not sure if I see anything else out of the norm there. Hey, Jamal, thanks for joining. Happy to have you here on the stream. So I think we'll be wrapping things up, guys, here. So I want to thank you guys for joining the stream. Hopefully you guys have found it useful and interesting and insightful. Like I said, make sure and join us in the PCDIY Facebook group if you guys are interested in kind of, like I said, getting the most up-to-date information. You want to have insights, guide, access to, you know, pretty much anything and all things ASUS when it comes to our components. I will definitely link it for you guys there. You guys can check it out. We'd love to have you featured there. If you're on YouTube and you're checking this out, feel free to go ahead and drop me comments. I'll make sure to go ahead and follow up there in the comments section and see if I can go ahead and respond to anybody. And again, I'm just going to leave you with a really cool picture of the Crosshair 8 Extreme because it's so cool. All right. I think that counts, right? So Where's a good shot? I think this is a beautiful shot here of the Extreme. So I will leave you with it. And oh, hey, Zach, let me just see here. Will there be any white red themed products? So red's pretty rare now, even though kind of red's like a core color for ROG. Most of our products were really focused on, I'd say, being fundamentally kind of monochrome or color neutral because of just RGB being such a big trend. We try to make sure that the design itself is complementary to whatever accent color people want to do through custom cables or through lighting or through other types of accessories. So we usually won't hard fix a color like red onto a product anymore. White, we definitely have actually quite a bit of white series products that we've already released. And as I talked about a little bit earlier in the stream, there's going to probably be a few more that are going to be coming in the not too distant future. So make sure to keep it tuned here to the weekly streams to find out about them. But I can't go into those products yet because they haven't been formally announced. But I'm willing to give you a little bit of an insight into that there might be some stuff coming. So with that, make sure to keep it tuned. But you know, realistically right now, in terms of what we have from a white ecosystem experience, we have white motherboards, we have white graphics cards, we have white power supplies, we have white AIO coolers, we have white headsets, we have white chassis. So we even have white routers. So we really do have an extensive lineup of white related kind of components and products to really help to fill out your system. All right. Hey, John, happy to have you here on the stream. So thanks for stopping in. So that is the CROSSHAIR 8 Extreme. I'm going to leave that with you guys. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to go ahead and follow up with me. Like I said, directly in the PCDIY Facebook group. You can go ahead and tag me there, or you can drop a comment here on the Facebook replay, or of course in the YouTube replay as well. I'll do my best to go ahead and follow up with you guys. So with that, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day, and best of luck with your guys' builds. So bye-bye.